Hello folks, now we've got a special one for you today. One of the biggest events of the modding calendar has just concluded, and that's the Cooler Master World Series. Now if you haven't heard of the World Series, it's basically a giant open competition open to modders all around the globe. It's divided into two categories, the Apprentice League and the Master League, with the Apprentice League focusing on first-time modders trying to get into the game and just have a bit of fun, and then the Master League with all the professionals basically trying to duke it out to see who's got their metal. Which brings us to the purpose of this video, because we're not just going to be showcasing the rigs themselves that won, we're also going to be taking a look at one of the prizes they're going to be receiving. Because they're not just getting a lot of cash and some hardware, they're also going to be getting a 140mm distro plate reservoir that I'm going to be making. So we're going to be delving into how those are made in a little bit, but for now, let's take a look through the winners and congratulate them. So first up, a huge congratulations to the Apprentice League winners, Project Maple by TPB Mods, Stealth 5 Yellow Label by Tamuda Square, Agent Zero by Michael Holly Dule, Samurai by More 4M Lester, and Future Gadget XX by Prototoxin. And now for the Master League. So this is divided into two separate categories. The first one being the Tower mod, which is for mods based on an existing Cooler Master chassis, and then the Scratch build, which is based on, well, whatever you want it to be. It's a Scratch build, you're not working off an existing case, you're making everything from scratch. So let's take a look at the winners for the Tower mod. So in third place was Project Realgar by Explore Modding. Now this project was quite an interesting one because it basically began life as an attempt to see what Alessandro could do with more basic tools. So no CNC, laser, instead sticking to things like hand tools or scroll saws, that sort of ilk. Now the interesting thing here is he decided to take on lots of different techniques that were new to him. So we've got an awful lot of work involving resin, growing crystals, so he took little crystals and grew them inside the components of the motherboard VRM heat sinks and also for the logo behind the front of the case. He's repainted the whole case in a sort of a textured white, sort of off-white finish, and he's matched that all up with a complete remodeling of the interior with the motherboard tray being replaced by a solid red resin one, the loop kind of looping around the back with the graphics card also on the back on a GPU riser card, and it's just finished in an incredibly neat and interesting fashion. I've never seen this particular usage of crystals in a build before, so it was really exciting to read through the process of how he did that. The project log went into great detail as to how all the different cutouts were done, and an incredible amount of work was spent just making all these tiny little almost Voronoi patterns using a scroll saw in the plastic on the inside and the aluminium on the outside as well. So congratulations Alessandro, the build was absolutely fantastic. Now second place went to SL600MI by Timeplay, which is an interesting mod because it kind of turns the concept of most competition builds on their head. Because usually they get bigger and bigger and bigger and they chuck more water cooling, radiators, fans, everything just to make it as flashy as possible. Well in Tim's case, he did the opposite. Instead he took the SL600M chassis and essentially cut it in half and made it into an ITX variant. Now this is one of these mods that on the surface of it you think, well that looks kind of straightforward, but it's not. He had to cut the whole thing in half and make it completely seamless. So he's reduced a huge amount of the excess width and height from the chassis, and then he put the ITX board horizontal. He's also created custom reservoirs and a pump mount on the inside, along with full custom sleeving. The fact that it looks kind of simple is because he spent so much time making it as minimalistic and clean as possible. There are no extraneous details, and that's actually incredibly difficult to do. Especially the fact that when you see this mod, you think it's a factory piece. You'd think that this product actually sits in the Cooler Master stack, but it doesn't. And I think that's really clever. So congratulations, Tim. It's a very novel concept. Now the big first place winner for the Tower mod category is Project Minimalistic by AK Mod. Now he took his Cooler Master C700M chassis and turned it into something absolutely beautiful. But he did this by firstly removing the entire interior and replacing it with a CNC cut 10mm aluminium structure. Now instead of using panels, what he did is he joined all of the key structural points together with just lines. Now that meant the whole chassis has a sort of a skeletal look, a bit like a skeleton watch. You can see right through it in some parts, and it makes it very kind of light and interesting. And on top of that, the whole chassis has been nickel plated, so it glints and shines at different angles. On top of that, he's also layered everything with different kinds of wood, just to add that premium feel everywhere. So starting off with the EK lignum parts, he's tied that theming into the reservoirs themselves, which are made out of solid walnut. Now you might think that walnut is a poor choice of material to make a reservoir from. Well, to mitigate this, what he actually did is he milled them out of wood first, and then he filled them up with resin. Then he went and milled the resin again, and then went sort of the normal way with acrylic layers on top to create genuine wooden reservoirs which don't have the coolant ever touch the wood itself. So they should, in theory, be nice and stable. Hopefully that pans out, but they do look fantastic. And on top of that, he's finished it up with like leather work along the handles, which is all hand stitched. And there were several different revisions of this as well. So he made a different version, didn't like it, remade the whole thing from scratch using saddle stitching instead. And I just absolutely loved the process of reading about how he followed through each step and shared it with everyone. So congratulations, AK, the mod is absolutely fantastic and a very worthy winner. Now moving on to the scratch builds, and the runner-up was Project Leviathan by Inoni. Now this does very much take the scratch build concept to the max, and it uses a fantastic 3D model that he worked so hard on to make a shape that I've not really seen in a mod before. In fact, it is a shark, and it's incredibly organic. So using 3D printing, he's managed to make an incredible chassis that works around the components and has such a dynamic form to it. The work was absolutely fantastic, and it was great seeing each part made from scratch on the printers and showing how he went about doing it, along with all the support material, paint work, and all the related things that do happen when you 3D print. So it was really good to see that whole process going on in the log, and I'm a big fan of the theme. I think it's really exciting, and it's something that I've not seen before. So seeing this sort of work, and I think is a really good usage of 3D printing, which is all too often used for more basic shapes when it could be used for something fantastic like this. So congratulations, it turned out fantastic. And finally, the award for the best scratch build goes to Star Wars X-70 X-Wing by Random Designs. Now this project has been on for quite a long time, and there's a good reason why. It's almost 6 feet long, like it's absolutely huge. Now that in itself isn't the most impressive bit. The fact is it was all 3D printed, modeled from scratch, and contains the whole PC in a way that's really cohesive. So quite often you'll find people make dioramas and sort of put a PC inside, but then they kind of hide the components and don't make proper use of things. Well, Stefan and Catherine Ulrich did not do this. Instead, they've actually worked the components right the way through the chassis. So the cockpit contains the CPU block and things. You've also got all the gauges, the power switches, all in appropriate points there. They've even put tiny little fans inside the thrusters of the wings that, by the way, do move and form the actual X shape, just so that when you walk past, you've got warm jets of air flowing past, and of course they've got lighting in there just to be nice and appropriate. It's a fantastic project showing with how much detail you can put in, and again, another fantastic use of 3D printing. I loved seeing how they went through with every single component and sanded it, finished it, primed it, then they airbrushed it, sprayed it, weathered it, just to make everything look as authentic as they possibly can do. And I think at the end of the day, the results really speak for themselves. It's a fantastic project and one they should be very proud of. Congratulations. So congratulations to all the winners over there. Now it's time to make you your trophies. And what we're going to be doing? We're going to be using this, which is 10mm semi-frosted acrylic, to make something rather special. And I don't want to ruin it for you, so we're just going to cut to a montage now and make some.